But our next guest says the government's data on just how much those costs increase is grossly underreported, causing a lot of us to fall behind.
So our guest has come up with a solution. He created his own cost of living index that can apply to all of us. So joining us now to explain is managing partner at Chapwood Capital Investment, Ed Butowski. Ed, great to have you here.
Morning.
So you say that the government has these gross inaccuracies in the methodology that they've used to calculate the cost of living increase. How so?
Absolutely. In fact, since 1983-84, this is when it began. Inflation at that time, the CPI number was about 12.2%.
CPI, Consumer Price Index.
The Consumer Price Index. And that's what our public basically public wages are tied to that. So when someone says, am I keeping up with inflation, or you get an increase in the private sector to keep you up with inflation, they're using that number. But they started changing the way, the methodologies on how they calculated it. And that has a major impact on everybody, because when you start to see that number, you say, well, that's what I'm doing to keep a constant standard of living.
Sure, and we've heard, the rate of inflation right now is about 3% or something like that. And so we think, okay, that's how much the cost of stuff is going up.
Right.
That's not true. So you've come up with this index. Let's take a look. Right now, according to the CPI, the government data, our rate of inflation is 3.6%. But look at your index. You say essentially it's 3 times bigger because the government, you say, is measuring things that aren't as important as the stuff you're measuring.
Right. The things that I measure, the government number has about 60,000 items in it. So if there's anything that you use that goes up maybe 15, 20%, an example would be a bagel, okay? Right. Bagels, this is crazy, but a bagel goes up in cost about 15 cents a year. Okay. So if you ate a bagel every single day, all right, it would be $58 more to eat bagels this year than last year. And the government doesn't report that type of information of the 500 top items. So what I did is I sent a message out to all my friends. I was going crazy over this because people weren't keeping up with what they needed to know. So I got about 4,000 items from all my friends of what they spend money on. I took
cable
the top
TV,
cable,
cup of coffee, sure.
Advil, all the things that we spend money on every day, and I took the top 500 items and started tracking that because I wanted to communicate to people what really mattered and not just taking the CPI blindly. And when I did that, I realized that this is a major reason not only that people are falling behind, but also why people rely on entitlements. Because when everyone has a threshold of pain, when you reach it, watch out. Well, people reach that point and they say, what can I do?
Sure.
They say, I have to keep up with my standard of living. So they reach out and they start using government entitlement programs.
Right.
So the bottom line is that because you crunch the products that you believe people are really using, 500 of them, you think that the cost of living is going up much more than we know.
Right.
And so that explains why people feel more behind than they do.
Right. And it's not the cost of living as much as it is the cost of living increase.
Right.
Financial advisors need to target exactly what the increase is in their portfolios, and we all need to know, and everyone has their own. You have your own cost of living increase, you have your own.
And you know what, Ed, we've got a couple of graphics. We're going to show for people who live in Atlanta, Georgia, according to the government, the Consumer Price Index, cost has gone up 2.8%. You say it's actually gone up 10%. Let's also look at Kansas City, Missouri. The government says their cost of living is at 4%. You say it is double that. So, and you look at New York City, you say it's close to 12%.
Look, I've been here for the last couple of days, and just doing anything costs more money this year than it did last year, and a lot more than 3.6%, as the government says.
Interesting stuff. All right, Ed Butowski from